Hello everyone, patch 9.2 just hit, and we have some Irelia changes. First and foremost, I want to go back to the rework of Irelia. I want to talk about the new kit as a whole. I think the new kit's a problem. I don't like it. I said at the beginning that it came out, I said this is never going to be balanced. The reasoning for that is because her kit is simply too overloaded. Now, what have Riot done to fix this? They made Irelia extremely weak by herself. She's super weak right now. 1v1, no stacks, no nothing, generally pretty weak. So, how does Irelia play around this? She uses her passive and minions to play around that. She gets stacks via the minions, becomes strong when she have them, and that's extremely oppressive the second she have them, and completely useless when she doesn't. And that makes it really unfun laning phase because it's very predictable. You see Irelia have the opportunity to get stacks, you back off, you play safe. You see she doesn't have the opportunity, you play aggressive, and you're gonna destroy her. It's not a very fun laning phase, very predictable. I think obviously the skill involved and everything. I like the fact that her auto attack range is long, 200 range, which is great because that adds a lot of skill to her kit because sometimes she can outrange other melees. But the passive is a problem. We need to make the passive a lot weaker. You don't want a champ that's reliant on a passive that's getting stacked via minions. Because if you're having a passive like that that's getting stacked via minions, you can only fight in that area or you're going to be extremely weak, which means you're going to have to be overpowered in that area while weak in other areas on the map, right? Which is not a good thing. Now, her second problem is Irelia is too oppressive than she's ahead. And what I mean with that isn't necessarily being ahead in items, but the problem is you can't escape Irelia once she's beating you. She got her Q to catch up to you, and she can jump on minions, and then she can jump on you, so she can easily jump multiple times. She have a E, which is a stun, which is a long range stun as well. Then after that, she also have her ultimate. And if you finally get ultimated, you have to run through a wall which slows you. So all of these problems is massive if you're getting chased down. Now, however, let's say she jumps you and you decide, I'm just going to fight her. Then her ultimate slow is completely useless because it doesn't do anything because you're not even going to activate it by walking through it. And her ultimate wall damage is also useless. So she becomes too oppressive that she's chasing somebody, and some of her kit is completely useless when she's not chasing somebody and they actually decide to fight her, which makes it really strong in team fights because it always works in team fights because it makes an area, but it doesn't work in a 1v1 situation. I think that's a problem because it makes it, as I said earlier, way too oppressive in the 1v1 when she's ahead, completely useless if she's not ahead in that area, in the fighting power. And for team fight, I mean, that's just a team fight ability, not really a big deal. But as a top laner, it is very annoying to play against. And it's going to make her super unbalanced because now you have to balance in a sense where if she's stronger than someone, she's going to destroy him completely. So she needs to be weaker than people. And that means once a good player is playing Irelia and she actually gets to points where she gets stronger than the opponent, they're going to abuse that because there's going to be more opportunities, which makes her super overpowered in a good player's hands and extremely fucking useless in a bad player's hand. Now let's talk about the Q. So the Q damage is extremely low because it's based around being able to jump multiple times. You don't actually do much damage if you don't jump multiple times, which means Irelia's Q is completely balanced around you being able to either enemy, Q them, ultimate them, Q them again, right? I don't think the Q should work with the E and the ultimate. I think that's a problem in itself. First of all, makes it too easy to chase people down. Makes it too easy to jump around all the time in teamfights. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think a bruiser needs to be able to jump around that much. I much more prefer the all Irelia kit where if you kill somebody, you can Q again. That's great. You did a good job. You finished off somebody. Nice. You get a reward. Or you can chase somebody with queuing on minions and then you can chase after them, but you don't get the opportunity to Q again, then ultimate, because why not? Then you can Q again, and then you can stun them as well, and then you can Q again, because how are they going to escape from that, right? With all Irelia, you could Q onto them one time, and then you could slow them, unless they had more health than you, right? And then that's it. That's all you had. I think that's much better, because right now she got way too much ability, so I would make the Q much stronger, base damage and everything, and then I changed the abilities for her to re-jump on opponents. I think that's a problem. Her W, let's go in here because this is not getting changed. Her W, I think the W is a pretty cool ability. It gives her the opportunity to survive big abilities. Gives her some teamfight power. It's very good to use in certain situations. I have no problems with this. I think it's a cool ability. Good add. Pretty much nothing there. I think it's good. On the E. Now, the problem with the E ability is, first and foremost, it is very anti-noob friendly. So a lot of people use the ability wrong. Now, there's certain ways you can use the ability to get the stun off faster and let the opponent react way slower, right? For example, let me just fire up paint quickly. I'm a terrible painter, but let's just say this is you, and the enemy is up here, right? The fastest way for you to use the E ability is by Eing behind them, and then afterwards Eing on yourself, right? A lot of people are going to E on themselves and then E on them afterwards, which is going to be slower. They can react much faster, and they can actually dodge the ability. Now, the only reason you actually want to do this one is if you're trying to catch somebody out. So you can E, maybe you're sitting in a bush something, you're Eing out of vision, they don't see it, and then you're moving towards them, then you can E behind them, because at that point they don't have the time to react necessarily because they're not expecting it. Whereas if they're expecting it, it's pretty easy to react most of the time. So a lot of people use it wrong, and that makes it very, what's called, anti-noob friendly, I would say, which could be a problem win ratio wise due to a lot of people missing it. Now, the second problem is the E is so important in her kit. You need to hit that E ability for her to be useless because it's tied into her Q ability. And it's tied into her passive stacks because you get the E passive stack and then you get the Q passive stack as well. So you need to hit that ability or you're just going to be fucking useless. I think the E should be weaker. Don't think it should be as important as it is. That'll be easily fixed by not letting people jump on the Q, nerfing the passive and buffing her strength as a whole. Like, making her stronger and then nerfing the passive and the E, right? That would already fix that. The next thing is the ultimate. So this ultimate is, I think it's a terrible fucking ultimate on Bruce. I don't get the point of it. It's an ultimate that's great in a teamfight situation. It's great in a 1v1 if the enemy is running. It's terrible in a 1v1 if the enemy is fighting you. And the changes they're making to it is doing the exact opposite of what I would want. So, let's go into the changes, right? So what they're changing about Irelia is the passive no longer deals bonus damage to shields and max stacks. Now, I would say that's generally enough to top laners because a lot of top laners do have more shields than mid laners, in my opinion, from my facts, what I'm thinking at least. Sure, there's Orianna and so on in mid lane, but there's Sion top, there's Urgot top, there's Shen top, there's a million champions with fucking shields in top lane. I don't think this is necessary. I don't really think it matters though. If they make a change later on, they can maybe make a balance. I didn't really like this in the first place because it's very oppressive against shield users. It's completely useless against non-shield users. I mean, it was unique to Irelia, but I don't really care about it. I would want the passive to be weaker overall. So anything that nerfs the passive is good to me because then they can actually balance the champion easier. The Q blade surge nerf. So this is an interesting thing. So they're changing the damage to minions. I haven't been in the game yet. I can't see how exactly this is going to affect the game. But there's two things to it. You need the Q to stack passive. If you can't do that, she's going to be fucking useless. If you can do it, it's not going to change anything. It's going to do a tiny bit more damage on your Tiamat procs, but that's about it. Or a tiny bit less. That's not going to be a big deal. It's not going to matter much in the game. So the only thing that matters here is, can you kill minions easier or is it more difficult? If it's more difficult, that could be a problem. If it's easier, then, I mean, this is just a buff in that case, right? So, I don't like this change. Don't think it's necessary. I think I really have a good way of killing minions right now. I honestly just see no point to this change. I don't get it. I think it's a mindless change. Now, the ultimate change. This is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing because everything we talked about was Irelia's problems. What are the problems? And I feel like this is going against everything to fix that. So first and foremost, if you look at a top lane team or fight, right? Having the wall, if you're chasing somebody down, they're going to instantly run through that wall if they're dying. So the duration doesn't matter except for team fights. Because if you're chasing somebody and he's going to die, he's running through the wall instantly or he's dead anyways. If he's turning around to fight you, he's not going to go through the wall regardless, so it doesn't matter. Don't like this. Not a fan of it. Disarm. Enemies who pass through the wall are no longer disarmed. I mean, again, does this really matter? If they're running away from you, they're gonna die. There's only enough to teamfights, right? Because if they're running away from you, they're gonna die anyways. And if they're not running away from you, in that case, they choose to fight you, and they're not gonna pass through the wall, right? They shouldn't pass through it. The only thing this could be nerfing is the 1v2. If you're getting into a 1v2 situation, you're ultimating the enemy top laner, and the jungler comes along, now he can't be disarmed. I don't think that's a good change. I'm not for it. I honestly think it's only enough to top lane. And I think in mid lane it matters even less, right? So, not happy about it. The wall slow duration is bigger now. I mean, again, same concept. It's not going to change anything because if they're running away, they're going to die regardless at most times. And then the wall damage is higher. This is simply just going to make a better mid lane, right? Because the more damage is going to be preferred in mid lane because now you have less chaseability. Chaseability makes her better top lane because it's a longer lane. Less chaseability makes her what's called better mid lane, right? Because now she got more damage instead. I feel like what they just did is basically just make her a better mid laner, make her a weaker top laner in the process, and make her teamfights weaker. Now, do I think her teamfights are completely overpowered? Not necessarily. I think her kit overall is kind of dumb. Don't like her kit right now that much. I would change a bunch of things. For example, as I already said, nerf the passive, change so you can't Q onto people that are getting E'd or stunned by the E, and maybe not getting Q onto people that are getting ultimated either, because it's too easy. You ultimate someone, you Q, and I just feel like her kit revolves too much around comboing abilities, and I don't like that, because it makes it harder to balance. Anyways, guys, give me your thoughts on it. What do you guys think about Irelia? Do you guys think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? What do you think they should change? Is there anything you would like Riot to do with her? Because honestly, there's so many things you can do on her. There's so many ways you could make her viable. I like the old Irelia more. I still like the new Irelia. I play her a lot, as you guys have noticed. And I'll continue to play her regardless of these changes, because I think she's kind of fun. I like a champion that can jump around. I'm playing a lot of Kayle recently too. So she's my kind of champion. I just think they could do better. Peace.